Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily podcast, where every day we delve into the heart of innovation, tech trends, and the stories of industry leaders who are paving the way forward. And today, I'm delighted to introduce a guest who has truly pushed the boundaries within the document management space. He's not just a visionary, but a man of action. And with M-Files, Antti Nivala has conceived and executed a path that has led a company to achieve the impressive $100 million in annual recurring revenue. And there's also a great story behind the company as well. It began in Finland, and today's guest went from there to Austin, Texas, so there's a lot of blanks to fill in. But I want to learn more about the only pure-play modern platform in the document management arena, the story behind it, the journey of M-Files, navigating economic challenges and emerging as a global leader at the other side. It's something that every tech enthusiast, business leader and startup founder loves to hear. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to Austin, Texas, where today's guest is waiting to join us. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell everyone listening a little about who you are and what you do?
Thanks, Neil. Yeah, I'm Antti Nivala. I'm founder and CEO of a company called M-Files. We're a global leader in information management. It's actually a company started back in Finland in around 2002, and since then I've actually moved to the US. But yeah, Finland is where it all started.
Fantastic, and I've spent some time in Finland and Estonia, and there is a huge thriving tech scene in that part of the world, and I look forward to finding out more about that. And I always like to take my guests back in time, find out more about their origin story. So can you tell me a little bit more about your journey in creating M-Files and also the evolution to the global leader in information management that it's gone on to become?
Sure. I got into software business as a hobby. I had a very fortunate opportunity to kind of learn entrepreneurship working alongside my father, who had founded a business for architectural engineering construction, and I was doing programming as a hobby, and I wanted to solve business problems for them. So that got me into first writing another application for that firm, but for the sake of time, let's not talk about that so much. Then this document management, information management software, M-Files, which I started creating in 2002. That was for the needs of my father's business. I saw that engineering projects, construction projects really were struggling with the chaos of documents and information management. So wanted to solve that. I was looking for an application in the market that would work for this company, but couldn't find the one that matched my vision of how it should work. And that's what got me started on the journey of developing M-Files. And
incredibly cool. And if we were to just put your tremendous success just to one side for a moment, M-Files has also been recognised as one of the most innovative technology companies by leading industry analyst firms. In fact, that's exactly what put you on my tech radar, set off my tech spidey sensors. So I've got to ask, what do you think sets M-Files apart in this crowded information management market? Because it is incredibly crowded, isn't it?
It is, but there's a very clear differentiation. I'd say we are the only one who has really built a document management platform from the ground up, with the idea of it has to be based on managing information by what it is rather than where it's stored. So as we say in technical terms, using metadata to describe the information instead of using this outdated folder paradigm that pretty much all of the other document or file management solutions have used. So that what we call metadata-driven information management, that's really the essence of the differentiation.
Before you came on the podcast, I was also reading about, I think you've had more than 150 million of investment. So how important has that investment been to the growth of M-Files and equally the development of new products and AI advancements? Because again, it's all anybody's talking about this year, isn't it?
Yeah, sure. before we got any outside investment, we were in operating in bootstrap mode for about 10 years, which is somewhat unusual in our business. So kind of I'd say I have experience of both sides of just doing it with incoming cash flows versus then using investor money to accelerate things. It was around 2013 when we figured out that if we want to really seize the global opportunity that mFiles has in the market, it's just going to be too slow if we do it without any external funding. So we got on the route of getting venture capital investors to back our business. And yeah, as you mentioned, we've raised more than $100 million by today, and invested most of that in the combination of R&D as well as go-to-market expansion. If you think of a company coming out of Finland, Europe, it is quite expensive to establish operations in the US and start breaking through the noise in the US market. Even if you have a superior product, it can be expensive.
And I think your leadership is a big part of your success too. So can I ask you share a little bit more about that leadership approach and also a philosophy maybe that has enabled mFiles to achieve sustainable growth despite the economic challenges that we're seeing all around the world at the moment?
Yeah, I'm sure every company has their own path to success, but I would like to believe that part of our success is the unique culture that we've been able to grow in the company, and that's very much related to the kind of leadership we value. Probably many facets to that, but to me, one of the most important aspects of good leadership is transparency and trust, and that's also very let's say natural for us from my and many of our Finnish roots, because that's kind of in the Finnish culture, equality and trust and transparency. So I think we've been able to use that to our advantage. I've really enjoyed the feeling of the team being very self-sustained, wanting to go in the right direction, and I feel it's more about like staying out of the way when you can enable people to do their best. So I believe in that kind of just be very open about the good things and the bad things, and let people do what they believe is the best way to solve it. That couple that with just the idea or the fundamental belief that everybody is trying to do their best. Like I very rarely come across anybody who would be trying to do the wrong thing. Everybody's trying to do the right thing, but sometimes it's hard for us to kind of like appreciate that, because if they're doing the different thing than what we would be doing, we may think that they're kind of like, hey, they're not working for the benefit of the company. But generally, everybody is doing their best, and yeah, we'll have to build on that.
I love that, and I love how you're keeping that Finnish culture as a huge part of your company. A question I've got to ask, of course, because another big aspect of the Finnish culture is saunas, and you're talking to me today in Austin, where it's well over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. So do you still keep that part of the culture? Because I would think in that kind of temperature, the last thing you want is a sauna.
Yeah, but I'm actually sitting next to my sauna here in Austin. So yeah, so my family moved here. We wanted to make sure we have part of the Finnish culture also here in Austin, Texas. So yeah, we bought a sauna. It's there on the patio, and it hasn't gotten that much use here now in August. But in January, February, it gets a little bit cooler even in Texas, and it's just wonderful to experience the sauna heat there. So yeah, I mean, highly recommended for all Americans too.
Brilliant, love it. And I also read before you came on today, mFiles recently reached $100 million in reoccurring revenue. I mean, fantastic news again. So how significant is an achievement like that for your company? And what does it say about your current market position and future prospects? Because it sounds like a really exciting time for you.
Yeah, we are very proud of the achievement of crossing the 100 million mark in annual recurring revenue. It's a big milestone for SaaS companies. And it was somewhat surprising to me that only about 50 companies last year, SaaS companies, crossed that milestone. So it's a relatively small group of companies each year, kind of getting to that scale. And I like that measure because there's been a lot of hype in the SaaS world about company valuations and raising tons of money, and as if it would be the measure of success, like how much you raise from the market and how much you burn as you are growing the businesses. So I think we are kind of like back to more metrics of success when we look at how much revenue or recurring revenue a business has generated. It's just a milestone for us. So I wouldn't say that this is kind of the end of the mFile story in any way. The market is huge, multi-billion-dollar market. So in a sense, 100 million may sound like a big figure, but we are serving a very small part of the market currently, and we need to aim a lot higher if we really want to make the mFile's vision come true.
And I suspect that you're far too humble to bring this up, but I've got to read this out. I mean, you've been named Software Entrepreneur of the Year, CTO of the Year in Finland, and Executive of the Year for the BIG Awards for Business in North America. So I've got to ask, how have these recognitions maybe influenced your approach to leadership and strategy?
Yeah, well, I hope they would be more of a kind of a recognition and outcome, and not the not the thing that influences what we do. But yeah, I mean, it's great for me personally to get such recognitions, and I think even more than that, they are recognitions for our team, for the company, for the success we've been able to develop together. So I think maybe the biggest influence is perhaps that gives a little bit of courage of also highlighting that we've done some things well, and maybe there are things where we can also give advice to others who are starting the journey, and that's when I come back, for instance, to this idea of just transparency and trust, and how important it is to keep that in front of everything when you're growing the team and leading the company.
And as for mFiles, is there anything else you can share around driving innovation in the document management space, especially with the rise of hybrid working, increased reliance on digital solutions, and an expectation to work from any device, any location, at any time?
Yeah, that's perhaps been the big trend that's been driving the success of mFiles right from the start. Even in the early days when the remote work wasn't such a big thing globally, it was actually something that we did at mFiles very early on. So working from our home offices and only occasionally coming to the office. So kind of like partly mFiles was also developed for our own needs of just being able to work from anywhere without regard of to place or time. I'd say today the biggest trends or influencers in information management, in document management, definitely the generative AI possibilities. Truly exciting what we can do with that. We've all gotten a little bit of a glimpse of that with ChatGPT and some others. But for mFiles, for instance, where metadata drives everything, it's really exciting to see the possibilities of how the AI innovations can perhaps automate more of that metadata extraction, metadata generation, and just make our platform work even more efficiently, effectively than today.
And as someone that is a hugely successful tech entrepreneur with significant experience, I've got to ask, on behalf of any startup founder that could be listening to our conversation today, feeling a little inspired on that journey that you've had there, that's taken you from Finland to Austin, Texas, is there any advice you'd give to a startup aiming to make an impact in their own respective field?
Yeah, I'd say the importance just, focusing on what you do really well and what you believe you can do the best in the world. If you stay true to that and have the patience of just doing it longer than maybe people are close to you, I could even believe you can stay committed. I think that's the path to success. Just there will be so many who talk about those other opportunities and get you distracted. But for in today's world to be successful, it needs to be laser focused.
Well, I love chatting with you today. We covered so much in a short amount of time. We covered your origin story and your path to success. But I'm now going to ask you to look back now for a moment and leave us with one final gift before you go today. And that is a book that means something to you, or something you can recommend, or a song that has inspired you, or maybe is the soundtrack to your life. Whatever it is, all I ask is, what would you like to leave everyone listening with, and why?
Yeah, it would actually be lovely to add a Finnish song to your playlist. But maybe it's more useful if I refer to or return my thinking to a book I read very early on my path with M-Files. That's the book, classic book, Good to Great by Jim Collins. I think that includes a lot of also the leadership style and focus ideas that I think have carried us on our journey to where we are today.
Excellent. Well, I'll get that added to our Amazon wish list. And I'm sure you don't want to leave a finished song to our Spotify playlist. You've got some great groups out there. There's a lot of heavy rock, isn't there? Everything from Hymn to Nightwish. But is there anything?
Exactly. Yeah.
Anything you'd like to add?
Yeah. I'll email you something. You may need a Nightwish song on your list. That's a good idea.
Awesome. Well, if you email me that, I'll make sure that gets added separately. And for anyone listening wanting to find out more information about M-Files or anything we discussed, or contact your team, where would you like to point everyone to today?
Certainly for any generic M-Files info, please visit our website at mfiles.com. And me and my team very active on LinkedIn, so that's a way to reach me and just connect with me on LinkedIn.
Well, I've links to everything there. And as I said, we covered a lot there. And one of the things that really stood out to me was, despite reaching that big figure of 100 million in annual reoccurring revenue, a huge milestone for an independent, privately owned company. But this is just the beginning for you guys. I love how you're thinking bigger. But I think more than anything, I think your success is down to your pragmatic approach and to sustainable growth. I'd love to stay in touch with you, maybe get you on towards the end of the year or next year, see how things are progressing. But more than anything, just thank you for sharing your story and leaving us with a great book and a teaser for a song for the playlist too. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, Neil. It was a pleasure.
So a huge thank you to today's guest for sharing his insights. I've learned a lot from understanding the vision behind M-Files, how it was inspired by real-world chaos of engineering and construction projects, to the admirable leadership approach that emphasises trust, transparency and empowerment. I think his journey is not just about the milestones, but the mindset and the methodology behind them. And again, his recognitions, including Software Entrepreneur of the Year, just testament to that kind of commitment to excellence and innovation. And every day, I always ask our guests to leave a book that has inspired them, or a favourite song that we can add to our Spotify playlist, and find out more about their story behind those choices. But I want to hear yours too. I don't just want to hear the guests. I'd love to hear from you. If you've got anything you'd like to add to that Amazon wishlist or that Spotify playlist, you want to ask me a question, whatever it is, just send me an email, techblogwriter@outlook.com. Connect with me on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, just at Neil C. Hughes. And I'd love to hear more about you and everyone listening. So a big thank you to today's guest for sharing his insights and his journey with M-Files. I encourage you all to keep innovating, stay curious, and cordially invite you to join me again tomorrow. But thanks for listening as always, and until next time, don't be a stranger.